Thank you for being back, and we'll call this a part two of a conversation with Jimmy O. We keep his name anonymous because of, as you'll find, evident reasons. We've been talking about Al Balik and our mutual knowing of him and some of what was involved with his life as well, in part, as yes, being a member of the Philadelphia experiment and what was involved with the Philadelphia experiment. And as well, we touched pretty much just of Al Balik's experience with the Montauk base at the far end of Long Island, which is now a park, a very nice park. It's very well done. And Al's retired years before he went to Mexico, which is where his passing took place, but his living in Atlanta, Georgia for just about 20 years, right near before Mexico and his final chapter took place. Uh, and we talked also of Jimmy O's experience as a 7-year-old, and well, to watch the first video is what that video is about. This time, would like to talk more of the subject of the Guardians of the Looking Glass. The Guardians.
By the way, I'm James Rink, and I got my camera on deck right now because I only have one camera feed for this. But this is really going to be for his channel, and yeah, we're eating olives right now. But yeah, so the Guardians of the Looking Glass. If we have time, we can go into that. Actually, when you want to start talking about that, just let me know, and then I'll give the audience a little background, at least what we know so far.
Okay. Yes, we'll talk of the Looking Glass subject and Jimmy O's perception of that. I've heard some things on that, and I might not totally.
You can use Jimmy Paine if you want to. It's a made up name.
Oh, it is
Jimmy Paine. Jimmy Paine.
Well, I'm a dick, and that's a real deal. But that's a certified, authentic. Anyway, Jimmy Paine. Okay, and Jimmy Paine's understanding of
Paine.
Paine. That's right, Mike. I had a dentist named Paine.
That's right.
And so we're talking of the Looking Glass subject, the Guardians, and I would like to explore more in the role and flow of Al's role with the Montauk base. I say this because he told me of how there was several different types of alien groups that used to run the halls there. And so perhaps you might be able to expand on that, as well as certainly we touch base of how the Bigfoot factor was involved with the history of Montauk. And that's cool. Perhaps we should start with that. Jimmy, were you able to experience, run around with, hang out, whatever, some of the different alien type groups that our government is was of a civil working relationship?
Yes. I was there when the Little Grays left out of Area 51. They were going to try to board the USS Eldridge. This is back when it was damaged. And what happened was when Montauk was gearing up for an experiment, so they fired up the radar antenna, and when they did, it destabilized about 7 or 8 flying saucers, and it pulled into the basement of Montauk. There's about 5 or 6 flying saucers that pancaked up down there. And the Little Grays got out, and that's how the Little Grays ended up at Montauk. and they stayed there for a couple of weeks till they can get some crystals to put back into the flying saucers. They use the diamonds, the crystals, excuse me, quartz, to power up the warp drive. And but yeah, there was some little grays running around Montauk for a while. Preston Nichols took some Lysol and sprayed one of it, made it drunk, stunk so bad. And then he took it and put it in the shower and tried to give it wash the funk off of it.
You mean a cold shower situation? The old cold shower thing?
Yeah, yeah. Now we also had a reptilian there. He had an office down below Preston Nichols' office, and the reptilian was a I think he was I think his rank was he was a he was a captain, but he was trying to make he's trying to become a colonel. Now he had a medallion on, looked very similar to what a medallion that the Roman army. If you ever watch the Roman army, some of the generals have medallion on their chest. It looks similar to that, except this one had 5 colored rocks in it, like a ruby, a sapphire. Um, it had different color rocks in it, and he had 5 rocks. And to get to be a colonel, you get 7 rocks. It's kind of like you have a 3-star general or a 4-star general, or like a clover leaf for a colonel. That was their marking of what rank they were in. But this reptilian was an officer who had an office right below Preston Nichols' office. You hear Preston talking about a reptilian walking around. Now, the reptilian was given, he was one of the stationary aliens that were there to manage over the Montauk computer system. Um, so I knew about the reptilian there, along with the little grays.
How about the Thuban Draco? Did
You
you?
mean the one that had the little antenna over his ear? Are you talking about that one?
I'm not really sure. They had a confessional there where they would carve pentagrams in blood and then have you drink it with their own blood. I mean, I know that's probably it could be part of those little pocket bubble realities where they send us off into.
Now, why would they have that at Montauk? I mean, there's not enough coffee or something? I mean, um, were they just respecting these different groups' customs
So,
to?
some of these reptilians, they use blood. It's like a protein shake for them. Okay,
Uh-huh.
uh, they can't digest solid food. They have to have liquid food, and blood, particularly cattle blood. Well, they can get it from any animal, but if they're domesticated, if they're a friendly alien, they'll get blood from an animal. If it's a wild gray, it would take blood from a human. But the aliens that were at Montauk were not wild.
I see. I see. And how were they vetted to where they knew that they were not wild, not bad? Right.
Well, well, as far as the reptilian, he was already there when I got there,
Uh-huh.
so I can't really uh, vouch for him. I talked to him telepathically. You could look into his eye. You
Yeah.
couldn't talk one-on-one with him, but you could look into his eye and communicate telepathically. But he was a captain. He wanted to be a colonel.
Of what?
Well, it was
Military?
a rank it was a ranking system.
Of our
Uh,
military?
no, not our military. His military.
His military. Okay.
Okay.
And they would have motherships up there in,
I
or
don't I don't know about that part. All I know is what he told me. But
okay,
the medallion that he wore on his chest was very similar to the medallion that a Roman general would wear.
interesting.
It was very similar. In fact, I'm wondering if if the Romans copied it from them, or did the reptilians copy it from the Romans?
That
But
could be an easy research. Very
it,
good.
Jimmy he's actually went back in time to the Roman Colosseum.
yeah, I've been to the Roman Colosseum before. I've
Oh,
actually held a gladiator's uh, a sword in my hand. That was one of the first things that I did when I got to Montauk, was to take time jumps to learn history. I've been to the Civil War. I've seen uh, the Continental Army, George Washington's Continental Army. I did a lot of time jumps.
wow. Thank you. Wow. Well, sometime we're going to talk on that. Uh, I say that because with the sociological fracases of the current time and culture with the country, um, what's in for me, uh, as you know, Freemasonry is a real cornerstone to the spirit of the free will agency that led to the creation of this country through the wisdoms and moral precepts of the fraternity, not religion, fraternity. What fraternity is about with brotherhood and what have you is where answers to questions of healing are for the country, that such future also. Um, there's a house cleaning taking place right now, and Al talked about that. Al talked about a depopulation thing, and uh, I think some of that's been waylaid. Um, as an example, waylaid because of the advancement of, in the positive senses, of technology and or of philosophy and thought, just because of time taking place and thought uh, pro- proceeding upon itself in a evolving way. We always have to remember there's not going to be a nuclear war situation insofar as, don't forget, in 1975, I don't know what alien group it was. I think it was Pleiadians, might have been Orions, I don't know. But they shut down 11 or 1,500, whatever, ICBMs up there in North Dakota, South Dakota, whatever. And at the same time, they did that to the Russians. So why do a nuclear thing? It ain't going to work. Maybe one or two shots here and there, but it's not like blow them all off and have a nice day. It ain't going to happen. But the dynamics of the threat are still there. But between you and I, it ain't going to happen.
What do you think, Jimmy?
I have to disagree with him, because I worked with John Titter when I was at Montauk, and they kept that very secret from all the other time jumpers. They gave John Titter a very hard time, and he ended up having to go underground because of it. Um, if anything, you'll see it in your lifetime. You will see it in your lifetime.
See what?
You would experience a nuclear war, and the vast majority of the people that are listening to this broadcast, vast majority of them will not survive it.
Well, thanks for saying that I'll see it. That means I'll survive it. I just, um,
But why don't you explain, Jimmy, why wouldn't the aliens save us?
It's because this man has determined his own destiny.
But they don't want to see this planet, which is a very special creation per se. The like Al is given reference to, he said this planet has so many different life forms, the spectrums of color that are reproducible. Um, as far as the alien, certain alien groups having a regard for the human race because of their capability of imagination or manifestation through either mental reasons or mental ways or prayer. Prayer is a very true physic. There is a real physic to a prayer in ways not even currently realized, but maybe, well, it's part of the progression of it all is uh, prayer is very powerful. Um, and some other things. So I'm appreciating what you say. And yes, I'm appreciating what Al said and some of the detail I won't refer to, which actually you've only partially referred to. Um, but it can change. And I think some of the things have already been waylaid. Um,
Let me say this much.
but the environment, the different alien groups, they don't want to see the planet go away.
Let me say this much.
Uh-huh.
Now, I didn't say the world's going to end. I said we're going to have a very bad nuclear war. Now, life on Earth, we still have about 800 years of history ahead of us. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
after 800 years, we die out. There's no life left on Earth. And I say no life. I mean, not even insects or birds or mammals. For that matter, any virus or bacteria, the whole Earth is wiped clean. So we have about 800 years left. The population is going to be greatly reduced in the near future, and there will be no more United States. There will be no more Russia. There will be no more China. Now, what will emerge would be 5 superstates, and it won't be a United States. It'd be a United States of America, not the United States, but United States of the Americas. And when I say Americas, I mean the Western Hemisphere. The United States is
You
a
know,
corporation.
like Brazil, like South
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
United States of the Americas.
Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying. Um, well, there's a scenario on that to be involved. I mean, we have the OAS, and I can see it having a hopefully a healthy future. You know, with certain things straightened out, like the stupidity of Venezuela taking place. Cuba, I'm looking forward to going to Cuba. That's, you know, things will take place. I mean, it's true the Chinese are greatly in. I think what is it, Russia or Cuba right now? The Russians and Iranians are in Venezuela. Their influence, but that's all temporal because we have oceans. You know, telephone lines only do so much. Um, so I appreciate what you mean. I appreciate what you mean, but the dynamics of that are still to be very, variably defined. I'll put it that way. There are ways to manage all this. Though I'm appreciating what you're saying, and I'm appreciating what Al said, because Al said there was going to be a thing like what you just said, also. But
Well, I thought Al said that there was a virus or something that kills 98% of the population.
Well, I don't know about 98%, but
Yeah. Oh no, it was the fertility rate dropped. Suddenly, women became infertile.
well, that's going on right now. The well, the females, that's true now. The COVID factor has somewhat affected that aspect. Uh, for males, before the COVID issue, um, the young males, their testosterone level is not as great as mine.
I want to say something. Now the cattle and the chickens are being they're just starting it, but they're just starting to vaccinate the herds with this vaccine. So even if you don't take the shot, if it's they're being injected
The
with,
transference, yeah.
yeah, and so um it's the nanoparticles from the shots are being injected into the beef and into the poultry. So you're being dosed right now, regardless if you take the shot or not.
I understand. I understand. Now I know why I had to go out and get a D-size bra the other day. I just know. I'm just being humorous. Um, but that's true. Well, people of different um makeups are responsive in those ways you're talking about to those different measures.
He actually, Jimmy Paine knew Edgar Hoover, and he had something to do with the photos, the tranny photos. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yeah, yeah. Now, if you read Sue Ford's book, um, she talks about it. I was there with the suitcase and the dresses and the wigs and with the cocaine and everything. And uh, we dressed him up, and he got the blue dress and the blind wig and red lipstick, and his friend, the assistant director, he got the red dress and high heels.
Now,
Excuse me.
what is this? What
Uh,
you had a drag party or what?
well, they gave a party um, outside of New York, where the headquarters was at, and J.R. Hoover went to the party, and we got him high on cocaine. Now his pictures actually showed up on the internet about 4 or 5 years ago. I should have copied those pictures. I figured that whoever put it on there had died, and but they quickly took those pictures off of Jerry Hoover. But I don't know if Jerry Hoover was gay or not, but we did dress him in a blue dress. I did. Me and Sue Ford did. She admits to it in her book.
Why did you dress in a blue dress? What is this?
We dressed Jerry Hoover in a blue dress, took a picture of him.
Oh, J. Edgar Hoover.
We dressed Jerry Hoover up in a blue dress. We put a red dress on the assistant FBI director
Yeah,
because they were investigating some of our guys down at Area 51, and they wanted to have access to a flying saucer, and we didn't want them to have access. And so we just went ahead and dressed them on up and blackmailed them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he wanted access to a flying saucer.
Uh-huh.
But Sue Ford admits it in her book that she dressed him up.
Uh-huh. Well, and were they a tailor fit? I mean, what in the world do we have here?
Well, I mean,
Goodwill at 135th and Fifth Avenue. I mean,
he, like I said, it was the only way to get him off our back was to dress him up like that.
Well, how'd you get him into a dress? Here, put this dress on. I mean, did you beat him?
We had got him stoned on cocaine.
Oh, the cocaine aspect. Okay.
Yeah, he was out of it. But he
I
looked so funny, looking into the camera when I was taking pictures of him,
uh-huh.
you know. But that's one thing I learned, is to never let the FBI or CIA get the upper hand on you. I had to go steal my file out of the out of George Bush's office in Quantico. Um, you know, he was watching us real close.
No, you're talking Daddy Bush, not Bush too, right?
The senior Bush,
Yeah,
Bush, yeah,
Poppy.
yeah,
Pop,
yeah. Poppy, he was into kids and all that shit.
yeah. He molested Kathy O'Brien's daughter at that was down at Disney World, excuse me.
Mhm.
And Kathy O'Brien went after him, and she never could get anywhere with him when that happened.
Mhm.
But
Jimmy, is
yeah,
uh, is Walt Disney connected to all that pedophilia? Was he into that?
no,
No,
he what he was. It started out like this: if you were in the Central Intelligence Agency or the FBI or whatever, your children could go to Disney World and get a free pass. That was just a compliment for the kids. Now, when the kids went through MK Ultra, um, yeah, they went there. I've met Mr. Disney. I've been to the fire station. He lived upstairs above the fire station at Disney World. So I've been to his fire station. Now he was not into pedophilia stuff. What's going on right now is um, the pedophiles have overrun that agency, and they're molesting the kids. Now, one individual was arrested not long ago. Um, his last name was Aquino. Now, I don't know if he's any kin to Michael Aquino, but
Queen
this
lives down in Foley, Alabama. He's,
well, Michael Aquino was an intelligence officer. He was head of Temple Set Church.
yeah, he's a bad dude. Big time.
Yeah, he I don't know if this guy was kin one of his children or not. But they're all into pedophilia stuff.
Mhm.
It's traumatizing the children is what it is. And they use the children to blackmail the congressmen and senators and judges. I've actually seen Supreme Court judges. Uh, I know their sex history because I got into their files as well.
Yes, yes, I understand that there's some factors there, and I think Trump has that information too. But that'll be next year. uh, well, let's see. Let's tone it down here.
Do you want to go into the Guardians of the?
Oh, the Guardians of the Looking Glass.
Yeah, or did you want to go to some another topic?
No, we can do that. Well, let me ask you, Jimmy. Do you have a perception? Of course, this is right now of current history, but do you have a perception of that you can expand upon? Maybe you can't. Of the pedophilia factor that Putin propounds about the Ukrainian aspect over there in Ukraine. Um, that's a real gone haywire situation over there. Uh, and do you have some perceptions?
Well, James asked me last time, well, not the last time, but a few weeks back, James me and him was talking about that, And
This is the 9th of April, 2022. Go ahead.
he was talking about that the aliens would intervene over in Ukraine. And anyway, I went ahead and remote viewed it. And if you go west of the Soviet base, naval base in the Black Sea, you go west about 100 miles or so, you run into a refuge, a park, a wildlife sanctuary, and it's basically a lot of sand in that area. And there's been a signal coming out of Ukraine, and what that is an old nuclear silo um, that was left over from 1960. You remember back in 1962 when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Oh, yes.
And part of the deal was if we pull our missiles out of Turkey, the Russians will pull their missiles out of Cuba. I what would the signal that was coming out of Ukraine was not of a spacecraft that was going to come up out of the sand or the ground or whatever and intervene in a nuclear war. That's not what the psychics have been zeroing in on. The signal that they're picking up, the psychics are picking up, is of a nuclear missile, the Satan missile, which is a hypersonic missile. And the Russians have been hiding it because I mean, if it comes down to losing Ukraine, they're going to fire the missile, and that missile is supersonic, and it carries a very large payload. Now, the Tosar bomb, that's the largest bomb that's ever been detonated in the Russian history, nuclear war, nuclear testing. This missile is much larger. It's got a warhead much larger. I think the largest one ever detonated was 80
Kiloton.
kiloton. Yeah, this is much larger.
Do we know exactly where that missile is?
It's about 100 miles west of the Soviet naval base.
Yeah.
And
know exactly where it is?
It's in the refuge there, 100 miles west.
Okay, the wildlife refuge. Okay.
It's underneath the sand there. That's where the Russians have been hiding it, and it's sending out a signal. Now, when James had some remote viewers remote view all that area over there, and they thought they were remote viewing some alien spacecraft that's going to come up and intervene. It's not what they're picking up.
So I think it's the Oleski Sands National Park area.
I believe that's it.
Yeah, and it's in the Crimea area of the Ukraine.
Uh-huh.
Is it about 100 miles west of the naval base?
Well, I don't know which naval base you're referring to. The one in
just go with the Black Sea, the north
end of the page on there.
I mean, is this Sevastopol, or are we talking
west of Crimea?
No,
but he said Russian.
James.
The same.
Yeah, but Russia is not west.
James.
It's Russia now.
I guess so.
If you can find the Black Sea.
Yes.
On the south end of the Black Sea is where NATO had their missiles back in 62. The United States had missiles back in 62 on the south end of the Black Sea.
Is that near Turkey?
Yes, it was in Turkey. Okay, those were missiles the United States pulled out in 62. All right. Now, the missiles that were on the north end of the Black Sea, if you go back towards Crimea, it's about 100 miles. It's right over the river. See the river there that runs into the Black Sea?
Uh-huh.
Are you on Google Earth or what?
Yeah, we're not really geared for screen share this
Okay.
thing, but
Well, it's the best way to describe it is on the north end of the Black Sea. There's a big naval base, a gigantic naval base
It's for their navy.
for
I mean,
their
I
navy.
understand Putin. They have this huge navy base.
All right, well, just go back towards Ukraine, about 100 miles. You see a bunch of sand there
Yes, we just
by
look.
a river, by a river.
yeah,
That's
that's
that,
Lusky.
that's where the
Sand. Yeah.
that's where the nuclear silos at.
Uh-huh.
So
I'm not going
Putin,
to say, but I know what that means. Would mean
Putin,
going to happen.
Putin is highly psychic
How do you know that?
because I've been around him. He's been inside Montauk. He
Putin?
was Putin back when I was a kid was was mingling in with the Montauk boys. He was pawning himself off as Ukrainian, but he was not from Ukraine. That's how I met him. Was
Oh,
at Montauk, and Putin was in the Montauk uh, with the Montauk boys. He infiltrated them,
wow. So
and he is psychic.
now
He is highly psychic.
Well, do you think he's a good person in your encounters with him?
He's James. There ain't nothing good out of him. Putin wanted to arrest me back right before the Chernobyl incident. Putin was going to try to get me arrested, and I knew that. That's why I told you when whoever was trying to remote view him to break it off because he's very smart. He can remote view you back.
he's that good, huh?
He is that good. He appears to be dumb, but don't let it fool you.
Uh-huh. That's what's behind that gaze, that steely gaze, is that concentration. Well, at the same time, with Putin, uh, he gives reference to a denazification of the Ukrainian culture, or just, I mean, it's true. Apparently, a lot of corruption is involved with the heart of Ukraine, but is it just a corruption, or is it a Nazi thing, or what's going on over there?
What happened back in World War II?
Yeah.
Hitler, I prior to Germany invading Russia, uh, prior to all that, Poland used to be part of Germany before World War One. All right, the Allies broke Germany in half and created Poland. All right, so Hitler invaded Poland because the people there spoke German. They are that is basically part of Germany. And when he invaded Poland, he found 10,000 officers of the Polish army murdered. Their hands were tied behind their backs. They were all shot to death, and they had dug trenches. And when they dug the bullets out of the corpses, and the bullets matched the German caliber at that time. So what had happened was the Russian troops had got into Poland, and they killed off all the Polish officers, 10,000 of them. And Hitler got stressed out over it because he thought that Stalin would invade Germany, and that was the reason why Hitler launched the attack on that's why Hitler launched the attack on Ukraine, was to chase down the Russian army and defeat them. He had one chance at it, and he took off chasing the Russian army, trying to run them down. But no, Khrushchev, um, Russia never owned Ukraine. I Russia's been down in Ukraine for many years, but they don't own it. Ukraine is a separate country. Now, how the Germans got involved, there was a division down there made up of volunteers, and they were trying to run the Russians off. Um, and
When was this?
when Germany fell, um, those divisions down there were made up of volunteers, and they just kind of went into hiding. Is all they did.
So it was remnants of the World War II Nazis that retained themselves in the Ukrainian culture.
Yes. Well, they are Ukrainian, but they're an equivalent of like a National Guard, but basically they were activated by Germany. Okay. There are National Guardsmen, but they're German in nature. When what where the resentment comes in at after World War, where the resentment comes in at is that Russia starved a lot of the Ukrainians to death. They've lost 1/3 of their population by starvation, and they moved them off. They moved them off of the cities and moved them out onto farms, and what they produced they could not keep. Okay, so a lot of people starved to death. That's why the bad blood is there. It's because of how cruel they were treated by the Russians. And all Ukraine wants is to be an independent country, is all they want to be.
Uh-huh. I see.
And they want to be free. And, this division of made up of these National Guardsmen, they just went underground. And you have to remember a lot of their loved ones starved to death when Russia did all that. So there's bad feelings there.
I see. Well, that puts a lot of this issue together that was not understood. Not understood.
And I want to say something else. A lot of people, and they go around talking about Joseph Mengele. I knew
Yeah.
Joseph. I knew Joseph Mengele. Uh, uh, and yeah, they found bodies burned to death. But I want to say this: the 1,500 or so bodies that they found, those people were taken out of the general population because they were showing very unusual signs. You had some of them that were shape shifting. You could take the blood out of some of those prisoners, and their blood was marine like, very similar to an octopus. Some of them had web feet or web hands. Some of them had double rows of teeth. They were trying to put themselves off as being deformed. But a lot of those people that were being separated were not all human. They were humanoids. And there was some type of genetic tinkering going on. And Hitler found out about it. And the only reason those people starved to death in the concentration camps is because Allied forces bombed the railroads and the food trains could not get through to feed the people that were in those internment camps. Okay?
Yes.
So what you know about history is has been tarnished here. it's well known to me and Arizona Wilder that the Queen of England shapeshifts. She is a reptilian. And since World War II, the population, these shapeshifters, might have gotten down to 200. For the last 70 years, their population has been exploding. Okay, there are many shapeshifters in our society, and what's going on now with the United States government? We're being infiltrated just like Germany was back in the 40s by these reptilians.
Interesting. Interesting. This is the whole matrix of matters taking place here. Well, why do you have an understanding why there's such a need of the Russian soldiers to be uh, shooting civilians? I mean, there's people that are just like here in the country. Like here in the country, only about 6% like really involve themselves with politics. You know, local elections, help out, doing things. You know, and try to be a politician and win an office. And where the rest of the culture is just people living their lives and uh, obeying the rules, rules being civil. Um, so with Ukraine, uh, why the Russians have been of such, why they go after civilians instead of just military targets and stuff, which are going after them successfully. Do you have a perception of that? Why that is?
Well, this virus this virus is turned loose is worldwide, and uh, the population is 7.2 billion right now. Now,
It's a little more than that, but go ahead.
within 70 years from now, it's going to be 28 billion. In other words, you know, at some point we can't sustain this many people.
Right.
And it's been 80 years since we had a war, excuse me. It's been 80 years since we had a world war. And war is inevitable at this point. And see, the Russians can time jump as well as the United States can.
That's true.
Okay. So they're trying to hold on to their empire. United States trying to hold on their empire. But all these empires are decaying. They're all going to fall. And there's, the population has got to be reduced. And these reptilians that are among us, the more that we dig underground bases, the better these reptilians like that. And it's happening not only in the United States, it's happening all over the world. You got the Russians building, you got the Americans building underground bases. They're building underground bases in South America. Once all these bases are built, then there's no more use for humans. So, if we shoot all of our nukes off at each other, we wipe each other off, and then there's nothing left to repel the aliens.
Okay, and that's where I'm disagreeing with you. I can understand a scenario could be involved, but not a total thing.
Well, you have also you got your presidents. Some of your presidents have been cloned. Mike Pence, there's a man in Indiana. I was telling James about it. That was on YouTube. Only thing you got to do is type in Mike Pence missing children, and there's a guy that pops up. He's talking about Mike Pence, that he's been cloned 4 times, and that he went to Ukraine the other day to try to get some children. And so what they're doing, they see a war come up, and then they show up saying, hey, we'll take the children out of here. What they're looking for is children for sacrifice.
For adrenochrome.
Yeah. And yeah, they need it. And so you have a difference of what went on between Bush and Pence there. But how these aliens do it, they clone people, and then they put them in positions of power. So, you know, Mike Pence has been accused of murdering over 100 kids here, is what this guy is saying down in Indiana. And he is a survivor of a sex survivor. And he is claiming some very unusual activity concerning Mike Pence.
Interesting. Never thought about it. He's such a boring guy. Just wouldn't think such. I see. Well, I don't know what to say.
Do you want to go into the Guardians now, or do you want?
Yes,
Because we're
the Guardian of the Looking Glass.
So you want me to just go ahead and get a quick rundown what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the camera. I might pop in. Hello, everybody. Yeah. Hold on. So just a quick rundown. The Guardians showed up in March of 2022 on YouTube and some other channels. The general gist of what's going on is that this looking glass technology was retrieved by certain members of the military from Iraq, and it appears around the mid 80s. But when this and the technology, although it's Sumerian, it's probably alien, predates Sumeria. But the technology, when it's put into a place on planet Earth that's a portal, it can activate and open up a scenario where you can see into the future. So the portal technology, Looking Glass, I think they said it operates in a 7-day loop, and it starts from that period, I guess you could say the mid 80s, up all the way to 2030. And it goes over the 7 days, it shows events, and then at the end of the 7 days, it resets and it goes back and does it again, but it shows different events. And it's been doing that. It does 144 of those loops, or about 2.4 years for a full cycle. So all this data has been analyzed by the elites, and basically what the data shows is that there are there's 70 markers of where the elites want to cause nuclear war, and they actually the information from Looking Glass showed the elites what to do to win, and what it is basically to go ahead and vaccinate everybody. And the vaccine in 2030, there's some kind of photon belt type energies. I'm assuming that encompasses the planet, and these energies will basically annihilate the people that got vaccinated with the graphene oxide. It will cause, and actually not only kill them, it will cause them to go to hell. Apparently, they get caught in some kind of astral hell for a million years. And the elites also who are getting vaccinated are getting a special vaccine to enhance their DNA. So when this normally what would happen, it would just it re-ages everybody to the age of 20. You live for thousands of years, and there's no disease, and it upgrades your DNA so you're fully telekinetic. You have all these psychic abilities. So the elites who are getting their special vaccine, they get to have enhanced abilities. So they want to see this scenario to take place where nuclear war happens and annihilates up to leaves about 500 million people left on the planet. They're left as slaves, because there's another vaccine where 500 million people are going to basically, when they go through this period of 2030, they're going to become a slave class. Their DNA will be downgraded, but they're not going to be killed. So they have everything lined up. And so what happens, the first prediction, the first marker was supposed to is predicted to take place April 18th of 2022, and Times Square basically being a false flag, killing 2,000 people. And then at the end of April, they wanted to spread anthrax over Washington, D.C., a special type of anthrax, which will be which was actually originated from Russia, but wasn't originated by the people that spread it. It was just all this was just to blame Russia. And then the U.S. forces would send nukes over into Russia and maybe China. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact details, but evidently the Russians have technology to disable all these nukes. And when that happens, the Russians retaliate and just vaporize 20 American cities instantly, killing, I think they said, 50 to 70 million people. So the anthrax attack was supposed to kill like 1 million people. So, all right. At that point, millions of people start flooding over the border into South America, Americans just trying to survive. And while that's going on, Europe is still in power, and then they start implementing more vaccinations. In order to get food, you have to get vaccines, and then they start having drone crafts hunting down people to force them to get, because they want everyone vaccinated to basically die when this scenario happens. But of that timeline, there's a 5%. Looking Glass showed a 5% probability where if all these markers were reverted and stopped, then we would go to a positive timeline where people basically unplugged from the system. They stopped using the banks, they start going to crypto. The United States economy crashes in the end of 2022. And the people that went into crypto are becoming extremely wealthy and take over for the new economy, which is based on quantum computing, and new technologies come out, which basically makes all these old corporations obsolete. So that's the Guardians of the Looking Glass YouTube channel. But I don't know how long they're going to be on YouTube. Honestly, I don't know how long you're going to have this channel by talking about this stuff, because my channel on Super Soldier Talk has already been hit with multiple strikes. But I would like to say one thing. One of the videos stated that another marker was this Chinese military scientist that's working on a supercomputing technology, Dr. Wu. And the prediction is that Dr. Wu has to be killed in May of 2022. So I went ahead and reached out to the Dr. Wu team and asked them if any of this is true. And they wrote me back saying that not only is these things true, but the information that was relayed to them actually, they had information that no one would know. So they actually verified that this information is accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right there and send it over to Dick, and you can go ahead and comment, Jimmy, if you like.
Jimmy, are there reflections that strike to mind? It sounds like some of what you've been referring to is of a parallel of what James has just erudited. I'm not in total agreement of it personally, insofar as on this end, as I've referred to before, what's involved with the physics and applications of prayer in certain sense of direction ways, and volitions of free will agency by those in prayer of such direction can buffer some of these contentions. What say you?
I have to say that it's coming, as far as the Looking Glass that James is talking about. I believe there's some truth to it. Now, when I was at Papoose Lake, they had a device out there that would make a plasma ball, and you could get at an angle from it and see into it. It would reflect, and you could see a timeline in it. So I believe they're referring to that as far as the Looking Glass. But now that was tied up with J-Rod. There was an alien out there named J-Rod.
God blow my nose.
He was about 5,200 years into the future. Some people say that J-Rod was us in the future, but to me, if somebody's been doing a lot of tampering with genetics, because he did not look human, he looked kind of like a gray. But I believe this looking glass to be a legitimate group is probably made up of former intelligence officers. If not that, it's the children of former intelligence officers, probably from Area 51 that James is referring to.
Yeah. So what we know from the J Rods, according to Dan Burish, is they were basically they look like grays, but they're from a future about 52,000 years from a negative timeline which had nuclear war, in which people had to go underground. And so the other thing that was mentioned was that beyond the year 2012, they weren't able to see into the future. So these guardians are now claiming they can see past 2012. So that's another thing that's kind of contradictory. Maybe you have some information on that.
Well, I do know, as far as some of their claims that they're making is true about the technology. Now, as far as the doctor being killed, I don't have any information on that, this Chinese doctor. But as far as the technology that they're talking about, that's very true. But that would be out at Nellis Air Force Base. If it was, they have to be out of Nellis Air Force Base, because that's the only place that technology would be under study. I just wish, like I said, J Rod, I've communicated with him. So I know he's true. I just, like I said, everything's so compartmentalized, James, that these people at Looking Glass would not know about me. But there's definitely somebody on the inside that's tinkering around with this technology.
I think some of the technology, sense of direction of the technology, inspires the imagination to hopefully complement on its own evolvement with discovery, and hopefully inspires civility of stewardship of those fruits of discovery. Things like that. What's involved with hope. I think that hope is involved with all these matters that's taking place right now. It's just, what's of finite nature is just that. What's of infinite nature is just that. Finite is within infinite. Evil is within good because it's finite. And so how to calculate, perceive, and calculate, draw, measure, and response to those results is where infinite or hope is the end run of all. That covers a lot of ground. It's a divine thing. Give me a break. What do you want?
I want to say this much.
Yeah.
Now, some of these dates that James gave out just now, these are numbers. Now, numbers like 6 and 9, these are numbers that little grays like. And I think physicists, they like the number 3 when they compute certain formulas. But when James started giving these dates out, and all these numbers like 144 times that you could run a sequel and every 7 days and all that. So um, someone's taking around some technology or alien technology.
Yes.
Well, the what I'm getting at here, even the people at Looking Glass knows that if those bombs go off, they're in it very deep. They're in it with us. So, um, like I was telling James, we had the problem at Montauk. We never could stop anything, a war. We could delay it, but we never could stop it. And I would think the same thing would happen to Looking Glass. Um, you could tinker with time and you can delay it, but overall, it would still, the outcome would still be the same. It's just you change it around a little. It's like a cookie on your computer. You can't get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, um, it does strike to mind here, talking intergalactic politics. The Pleiadians are our best friends. Al told me once that, at least this is a then, it would be about 98. And he told me that militarily, we're capable of handling anything out there except for two outfits. Uh, and he didn't say who they were. One, I imagine, would be the Pleiadians, who are our best buddies. They're not a problem. But militarily, of course, they're more of everything. Who the other group is, I don't know. I don't know.
I would think it would be the I would think it'd be the reptilians. They seem to be, you know, they're the ones that's causing all the misery we're having.
Yeah. So why aren't the Pleiadians? Is it because of ascribing to intergalactic law on interference that they don't come to our aid, or substantiation of cause has not been of that level of measure to where they can come to our aid? And for that matter, the Orions, the good guy Orions. Not that there's that many of them, but coming to our aid, because some of the good guy Orions, they're, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're of operative association with the Pleiadians, I believe, aren't they?
It all comes down who carries the biggest stick.
That's right.
And the one who carries the biggest stick are the reptilians.
Mhm.
I They have the strength 12 to 14 times more than an average human. Okay. Um, and there's many more of them uh, closest. There's at least 200 of them on Earth, and there's about 1,800 of them on Mars. I know around Temperatura, Mars is where that group is at. All right, but it all goes down to who carries the biggest stick, and it is definitely the reptilians. Now, when this queen over in England dies, okay, um, there's going to be a struggle over who takes control over Earth. So, uh, when she dies, there'll be a new power struggle, and it'd be interesting if these other alien groups, extraterrestrials, I mean, will come to the aid of humans, but we're on our own, um, as far as I can tell.
Well, we don't mind that. We have our secret space force that's pretty capable. I got blown nose.
Well, it goes back if we're all fighting amongst ourselves, shooting nuclear weapons at each other. We're not much of a force or something from outer space coming in to invade. The whole planet would be starving. Okay, we're gonna have a disruption in our food. You know,
Do you see them trying to do a forced vaccines in order to get food?
Yes, yes. You turn your weapon in. They know by internet records who owns guns. They know who's buying silver or gold. The government has a record on everybody. They know what you look like.
Well, I guess if the United States gets annihilated, vaporized, its largest cities, and probably some of those records are going to get vaporized with it.
Well, James, is like this. Um, a lot of the records are like the data centers. Some of those data centers underneath the ground in deep underground military bases. You know, sure, I can cut you off from the internet, but you still have a computer. You see what I'm saying? So even if those everybody gets blown up on the surface, there's still data banks deep down inside these deep underground military bases. It's going to hold the data. And you don't know how much, as far as the Chinese is concerned, they probably got files on you and everybody else in the secret space program.
Well, that's the thing about TikTok, which has come out, is how they, as well as our government, Google and all that, keeping their databases. The Chinese do it through TikTok. That's like
Well,
only so much to do with TikTok.
well, I know that when I was in Vietnam, um, I met a Chinese colonel named Zing, and he was a Satanist. And he was a Satanist.
A Satanist.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And President Ho asked me, see, he was wanting to fire off a nuke into South Vietnam, and Colonel Zing had some nuclear Scud missiles. He was hiding them in the jungle, and he told me, Colonel Zing did. He said, "Jimmy, you know what we're going to do to the United States?" And before I could say anything, he said, "We're going to take um, a bunch of ships, and we're going to put them on the west coast of the United States, and we're going to come into the harbors, and we're going to detonate nuclear bomb in the harbor, and then we're going to come over and we're going to invade the United States." And he said, "We have a 200 million man army." And he said, "We have 1 million out of that 200 million that are gay men. And what we're going to do, we're going to take the other 199 million men. They're going to hold the rifles, and those 1 million Chinese gay men are going to rape all of the American soldiers. If you wear the uniform of the United States military, doesn't matter if you're in the Navy, Army, Air Force, or Coast Guard, or for that matter, the new Space Force, you would be raped. And if you have a wife, your wife would be taken from you. Your daughter would be taken from you. And you would be a bitch to that Chinese officer, that gay Chinese officer." All right. And see, that's their plan, is to invade the United States. We've humiliated them very badly for the last 100 years. And there's not enough women to go around in China. So they're going to come over here and take our women, and they're going to take our land, and they're going to rape, and this includes the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They're going to be raped, and every man that's in a uniform is going to get raped. That's why you see all this transgender stuff coming down in the military. They're trying to prepare the guys in the military to be somebody's bitch. That's what it's all about.
Well, in Vietnam, when were you in Vietnam that you heard all this?
I was in Vietnam in 1967. I was a courier uh, for the president of Laos. I carried messages from the presidential palace in Laos to the presidential palace in South Vietnam. I'm a courier. I'm also
You're in the military and you did.
no at the time when I first showed up in Vietnam was when I was about 6 years old. I was given a crayon book and a coloring book, and I would visit the First Lady of South Vietnam. And in this coloring book, they had pictures, and there was numbers in the pictures, and you had to get a certain type of a crayon, a number crayon, to color a certain color in a block that made a picture. Okay, that was basically an enigma. The color, the crayon of the color, and the number in the book. You go to a safe and open the safe up, and you would break open a card in a little plastic pouch. It would break, and you would the code you could put it into a teletype, an Enigma machine. It would spell a message out. See, nobody looks at a little 6-year-old kid with a coloring book. So I would go back and forth from Nellis Air Force Base to the presidential palace in South Vietnam. The First Lady of South Vietnam was communicating with Nellis Air Force Base. And then from there, I would go to the presidential palace in Laos. But when I got old enough where I couldn't carry a coloring book, I was basically a courier. When I was 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, I was a courier. And I got caught in Dalat, South Vietnam, down by the nuclear power plant. I got caught and I was shipped over to Cambodia, and I was in an internment camp for a while there till I got real sick, and they had to ship me up by rail train up to Hanoi. And when I got to Hanoi, they put me in a warehouse, and that's how I met President Ho there. Um, but anyway, getting back to Colonel Zing, Colonel Zing wanted to shoot off some Scud missiles in the South Vietnam and end the war. And President Ho knew I was a courier, intelligence courier. So he asked me to intervene. And I went out there and I saw the Scud missiles. And then that's how I got to knowing Colonel Zing. And Colonel Zing was not acting in the best interest of North Vietnam. And that's when I found out what they were going to do to the United States troops. Not only were they going to kill off 500,000 American troops in South Vietnam, the plan was to invade the United States and take the women and the farmland.
All right.
Okay. Well, I think we've done a pretty complete perception in approach to what could possibly, I'm going to say it that way, be involved with of a measure near future. Taking these points, data as in fact, they can be worked with and calculate out a best way for the future really to come about. There are ways to handle this, what might be bad stuff, to where it's not bad. Al always said that. Al always said that even though there's future perception and knowings, at the same time it can get changed out. which is part of what's involved with the knowledge of inevitable, and where the inevitable factors come into play here is about to really come into play. Thank you, James. We will play again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, Jimmy, for joining us here.
I was saying Jimmy also, Jimmy James.
So, does anybody have any other final messages?
That's right.
I just
did mine. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I like your positive attitude. I think it's helpful, but it's going to take more than a positive attitude to get through this. It's going to take some cooperation with the people down at Looking Glass. We definitely need to get back to Nellis Air Force Base, and I believe the cookie that we ran into during the Montauk experiments, as far as we could delay things, but we never could stop it. I believe we can stop it, but we're going to have the intervention of some of our guests out at Area 51, because it's definitely being hid from them.
Oh, okay. I understand. Now, yeah, you say area 50. Here I go. I'm trying to end the program. Short point. Area 51. Would that be also the Dream? Was it Dream?
Dreamland, yes.
Dreamland.
Nellis Air Force Base. We're
Okay.
I believe it can be changed, but unless the rank and file will gain weight, stand back and let me do my job, because they're all going to get raped. If you wear the uniform of a United States soldier, you will be raped, and your commanders will abandon you. And because there has been an infestation of shapeshifters in high-ranking places within the United States government. It's also happened over in Russia. They have infiltrated. These shapeshifters have gotten into Putin's cabinet. Okay, they may appear to be human, but they're not human, and it's something very evil that's taken hold of mankind here. And but like I said, it can be corrected, but I would need to go back to Nellis Air Force Base, and we would have to sit down with our guest, explain the problem, and get some input on their side.
Okay, you're retired now, pretty much, but would you be
Yes.
willing to do that if certain mechanisms came into play, like in the fall after the election? Would you be up for getting into doing some stuff here?
I would definitely be up to it, because I've got no choice in it. I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I do know that there are some humans that are in league with these reptilians, and they've been made promises to be taken care of and everything, and it's a selling out of their own race, you see. And so my biggest concern is that what happens at Nellis Air Force Base, what happens at Area 51 stays at Area 51. These politicians need to go back to Washington and mind their business. And Nellis Air Force Base, Creech, Holloman, all them, they need to keep all their business within that base, and just turn away these outsiders. And because it's going to be up to them in the end. Those nuclear missiles are pointed at those bases.
I see. Do you know who the alien group is that stopped those ICBMs back in '75 for both Russia and here? Do you know offhand who it was that did that, to just sort of let us know?
There's different groups of them, but what I'm saying is, you have some some hybrids that live amongst us. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all the life they know is been around humans.
Mhm.
I They're the ones that are helping us. You have some that are not from Earth that look down upon us. Okay, and you got to remember, we're protein for them. We're the adrenochrome. Okay, if we die a violent death, you know, that's good for them. You know, they can take that blood and freeze it, and that's a snack for them. You see, um,
What about these military tribunals in Guantanamo? Don't you think they're helping?
you know, it all goes back to who's over all of it. You know, they have a turnover in the chain of command so much. Right now, I don't know who's over it at this point.
Okay, we'll leave it at that too, because I think I know, but we gotta leave it at that.
I'd like to comment about something. So the Guardians in the video, they said that the military tries to use their TR-3Bs to intercept the nukes that come down on America. And what they actually said is that there's some kind of technology that the Russians and the Chinese are using that basically prevents them from intercepting any of these hypersonic weapons. So they get so desperate they even try to fly the TR-3Bs directly into the nukes, and they weren't even able to do that. Now, so one of the things that I question about this is that the United States, with I guess within the secret space program, they're the Solar Warden Group. They haven't used TR-3B since the 1960s. They're on the G series now. I don't know. Maybe whoever wrote that, I don't know if they really understood the intel on that. But anyway, so I like to mention that as well. And I think I want to mention one more thing. The reason why they release this content is so that it could be stopped. It's not like they're trying to create fear porn. And matter of fact, I want to listeners know that this is not about fear porn either. And if you start writing about stuff like that, I think your comments should be deleted because I'm tired of people. We're trying to educate people. We can manifest a positive reality, I believe, by making changes to it. But we can't change what we don't acknowledge if you want to be afraid. And it's like, oh, well, because I know there's a lot of people in the new age nonsense who like to think that, oh, well, let's just think happy thoughts and everything goes away. But that's not how it works. You don't manifest negativity by investigating it. You manifest what comes from your heart chakra, what's based out of love. Anyway, so um, go out. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. I have no if Dick keeps producing content like this, he's probably not going to be up for very long. But subscribe to this channel. Also, his email is in the description. Go to my website, supersolartalk.com. You can subscribe to my Rumble on Super Solar Talk. YouTube has been censoring me. But yeah, so that's all I like to say. Is there maybe we should go ahead and finish this. Is there anything else, Jimmy?
Well, I think you're right. It can be stopped. I do know that one of the landing spots is in France, and that on top of the Eiffel Tower, there's an antenna sending out a signal. So I do know that if there's an invasion from outer space, it's going to happen around by the Eiffel Tower.
Mm.
Now, as far as the Chinese are concerned, they have psychics on that aircraft carrier that they have just built not long ago. There's 4 psychics on that aircraft carrier, so they're able to remote view. And I don't know what's on as far as our remote viewers are concerned. I don't know if we're up to it.
Okay.
Okay, we can leave it at that. It's a beautiful ship, by the way, they built. And they're building another one. Thank you very much, Jimmy Paine, brother. And we will do more right soon. This is April 9, 2022. Thank you and good night, all. Everything's good. Everything will be good. It is manageable. It really is manageable. I can't say how, but I know how. That's it. Hit it.